Of In the Flow. We are the Eureka Effect. My name is Courtney.
And my name is Hannah.
And today we're going to be discussing what we've been up to the last 2 weeks.
Yeah, we've crossed over into 2021. How exciting. The year everyone's been waiting for some reason. And we also have entered the age of Aquarius. So
a lot going on.
I know, there's so much going on. I think it's been the past 200 years. We've been in earth signs, and now we're moving on to air signs, and the Aquarius is sort of our first ruling house. And don't take all of that word for word. I'm unfortunately not an astronomer. Holy shit, I'm not even a very smart person, apparently. Oh my god, sorry. But yeah, 3D into 5D, baby.
Essentially, yeah, that's what's going on. And if you don't know what 3D versus 5D is, we'll attempt to break it down for you. Yes. I mean, we're not astronomers, astrologers, or claim to be experts.
Yeah,
but
very specific.
I'm going to just give it a whirl here. So, essentially, 3D is when you are still living in the Matrix, or you
are attached to, I feel, the physical realm. Like, you believe that your life is get a job, work here on Earth. There's no other dimensions apart from ours. Our solar system and our universe is a finite place as opposed to a theoretical.
Well, I don't know, because I think there's different understandings of like 3D. Like,
yes, this is what it means to us specifically. Let's do a little disclaimer to that.
Yeah, or the way that we would describe it, or like when I was living in 3D, like, well, personally, I grew up, like, I wasn't exactly like atheist, but I never went to church. I had like zero programming.
Yeah, nothing religious anyway.
Yeah, in that sense.
Yeah.
So I kind of I was always like curious and asking questions, and the only answers that I had access to when I was younger were textbooks and kind of like what adults told me.
I was saying what was fed to you, basically.
Yeah, and then I did start to question things like the older that I got, and I kind of went back and forth from having like my own just eccentric theories. Actually, when I was like 11 years old, I explained a form of Buddhism. Like, I was just kind of like rattling it off the top of my head, aka tapping into something or other, because I didn't know that until I got older.
See, I feel like I experienced asking my parents questions that were very grandiose and very big, and like things that you wouldn't expect to come out of a child, but I got the Christian explanation, whereas your parents were like, you know what I mean? Like, your ideals were like too big for even them to grasp. Whereas I feel like Christianity has labeled a lot of these things and phenomenon in the universe, and they have a very specific perspective on them. So I always got somewhat of an answer. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I had to kind of go looking for it. So I was a skeptic at one point. Like, when I would say like middle school, high school, like I would identify as an atheist because I was just so hardcore.
That's
like, science
makes me so scared to even think about like only believing in that. Like,
yeah, and well, that type of damage, and I'm sure there's a lot of people that I went to school with that probably thought the same way, like that didn't grow up going to church either, because like that's the only conclusion that I could have really reached, like essentially, like,
because my parents in mainstream school, you know what I mean, and that is so
public school.
Yes, exactly, and it's so concrete, and like that the programming is just very clear there that they make like people think one way,
because they want to. I don't know this for sure, but it seems like it's all about wearing you down. Like, I know,
and making you a slave to capitalism.
Yes, exactly, because there's no point. Like, who even cares?
Yes.
And like, there's nothing beyond like your physical ego self. So that's why everyone is so fucking caught up into what people think of them and how they're perceived,
their appearance,
and like what they make of themselves,
what their worth looks like based on what job they have, and like all that good stuff, for sure.
Which kind of brings us into one of our topics that we would like to discuss today. We watched the movie Soul.
Yes.
Twice. In a run of 2 days.
I would say in a row.
And essentially, we wanted to discuss our first experience, because it was magical. An experience.
Yes. So we little confession, we might have done some psychedelics. We actually partook in some mushrooms that night. Side note, this is a little unrelated, but I seen a video of someone at the pharmacy telling a girl that had coronavirus that she should be eating mushrooms for her immune system as opposed to taking the vitamins she was going to buy. Anyway, not to say that plant medicine is probably the answer to everything, but
it's an answer probably, to a lot.
Yeah,
it is.
Yeah, it's probably being demonized for a reason. Anyway.
And that reason is, holy shit, my third eye went all the way open.
Yes.
Like,
when you think about your brain like a computer, and you think of like neurotransmitters and how we get them stuck in these little bad thought loops, literally all of those they're just gone. There's no lines and tracks of thinking. You just feel everything at the same time, if that makes any sense. And there's so much going on.
There's like dimensions
amazing.
and layers to all of your thoughts, and you're understanding so much at once. It's rewiring your brain, and you're able to like perceive things on such a deeper level. And I couldn't have thought of a better idea. Well, she thought of it.
Well, whatever.
Well, it was kind of like a combo A, combo B. We were gonna actually...
It kind of just happened, really.
We wanted to watch Soul and then do a podcast right after. And then, and then I suggested doing the mushrooms, and then she suggested watching Soul while on it. And it went together beautifully.
Yes.
Like, oh my goodness.
The most wicked pairing. 10 out of 10 recommend if you are of age and have experience with psychedelics, because, it was an experience as opposed to a movie. It took us on a journey, and I feel specifically the past year, all of the stuff that I've learned and understand was pretty much reflected in Soul.
It was solidified, and it was like broadcasted to us in cartoon form, which was, oh my gosh, it is so it looks like hyper realistic, but it's like cartoon like, and that was like a lot for our mushroom brains. But it made it that much more intriguing. And
oh my gosh, there were some scenes, man, where I like
we were giggling like kids.
Yeah, like, for sure. And stuff was like real. It would take me so off guard, and like my mouth would be wide open looking at the screen, like just mesmerized.
Yeah, absolutely. It brought us right back into like, which it ties into watching Soul, because we're gonna, if you haven't watched the movie,
spoilers. Sorry about that. I promise. Last jump cut. Anyway, take it away, Court.
Okay, so the reason why I wanted to bring this up was because they like made a 3D depiction, or a depiction that our human minds can comprehend of like the astral realm. So there's the people that are in the flow state that are rising above, like in the lights, and then there's lost souls. So souls that have left their body, essentially, and then they're trapped in this astral realm, and then they're trapped inside like a coating that makes them look like a monster. And the coating essentially is like a bunch of negativity that we come to learn in the end, because of another character. We'll get to it later. Yes. But essentially, so when souls leave their body, they're either in the flow state, floating because they're vibing out, doing their passion, or they're stuck in a ball of negativity that disconnects them from their body.
I feel like when you go to the store, or maybe sometimes even in our own jobs, we can look around and see those people who kind of don't have the life behind their eyes in the same way, and who feel dead. And like you can tell by usually the way they speak, or you can sense the low vibrations off of them. But I think there's a lot of people who end up in that state. So it was really cool to see, because I've definitely been in that state.
Yeah,
it was really cool
you're
to see.
disconnected from yourself.
Yes, and understand what exactly was going on in there. Basically, it's programming and all the negative thoughts and all of the childhood trauma encasing your pure soul, and damaging it down.
There was a quote. Let me see if I can find it. I have a couple notes here.
Yes.
Where souls go to get crushed. Yes, so the pure soul, there's okay, so the Joe, the main character who represents the ego, the one who died, when he goes up there, he is supposed to mentor this new soul that has never got its earth pass. I don't know if it's a boy or a girl. You call it a boy and I call it a girl.
I know. I think it's supposed to be a girl.
Yeah, so I'm just going to say her. So 22's never been to Earth. She doesn't want to. They can't make her go. I lost my train. Oh, sorry. So, what I was saying was, there was a scene where, like, she knocked over something and it crushed a bunch of the new souls.
Yeah,
and then,
yeah.
like, Joe's like, oh my god. And she's like, oh, don't worry. Like, Earth is where souls go to get crushed.
Mm-hmm.
So that's when you lose touch with your higher self,
Yes.
essentially, you get stuck in this.
Oh, that's interesting that you say higher self and they are actually, like, physically higher than and everything else that's going on in the astral plane. Do you know what I mean? That's a very, I don't know, it's also symbolic, dude. This every time we talk about this movie, I feel like I realize more things as we hash it out even.
It is a powerful ass movie, let me tell you.
Yeah, so many symbolic things that are I could never articulate, obviously, by the way I'm stuttering.
And the first time watching it on mushrooms, too, like, I was taking a lot in. And even the second time, too. I'm like, we are going to actually sit down a third time, and we're probably going to put together, like, a more visual video for you guys, because I think there's, like, a lot of good stuff in this.
So much good stuff. And we can't even, I feel like, scratch the surface, and that's what's so frustrating about it. But it's also awesome, because if you watch it yourself, you guys can take away your own thoughts and definitely leave them. Either in comments or reach out to us on our Instagram, too.
Yeah, for sure.
Because we love our open dialogue.
Let me see if there was anything else that I wanted to touch on for...
Oh, what do you think the point of the movie was? I feel like the point of the movie was to make people remember that our job is to just experience, and it is not to... we are not supposed to have a purpose, and that is okay.
Yes.
It's like a reminder that we are just the universe experiencing itself in a visual form. Man, I can't articulate beyond that, though, because I feel like there's stuff that I can think, but I can't say out loud yet. That will...
We'll get there eventually, because it's a lot. There is a lot to unpack, but I think... It did beautifully describe how we are just the universe experiencing itself, because how the consciousness, like 22 goes into Joe's body, and Joe goes in and out, you know what I mean? Yeah. And that was one example of it, and another really cool thing is it shows, like, how powerful, like, finding your passion is. That was another really beautiful thing that I took from that, like... And how the flow state is real.
Yes. I think another thing to note about finding your passion, I really, really like the hairdresser scene. I think that's one of my favorites because he sits there and talks about his passions, but he has had many jobs and he has been happy throughout it. And I think that that's an awesome illustration of how your passion is not a destination, it is a journey. There's so many things that are not a destination, they're a journey. Exactly. And I have understood that in such a different light now that I've put it to a couple different things. But he started out as wanting to help animals, and then when 22 was like, oh, but you ended up here as a hairdresser, miserable. He was like, whoa, no, I'm not miserable. Like, it's okay.
You gotta work with what you got, and you gotta, like, look at the small things in life, and it's about collecting moments and really cherishing them and living in the moment. That is what the whole movie's about. And following, like, what feels good. It's so strange to me that Disney, out of all fucking evil companies, would put something out like that. Like, you know how, like, Lion King and all those movies have, like...
subliminal messages. Yeah, I know.
And this one is just so pure, but, like you said, Age of Aquarius is just kind of, like, energy shifting, and I think that's a prime example of that, because it is good. And I don't... The only thing that I can think is maybe how if you took it too seriously, like we did so when we were on mushrooms, because we think this way already, plus mushrooms open up your consciousness, plus that movie is very, like, thought-provoking, like, so we were like, how in the fuck, like, can they show this to children? Like,
it was incomprehensible to me. I couldn't see how a child could sit there and be entertained or even grasp any of the concepts, but...
I could see how a child would be entertained because we were acting like children.
Yes,
and then we would perceive it as a child would, I think, because... Or, like...
on some level, for sure.
Because kids have a bigger imagination. Their consciousness is more, you know what I mean?
Pure, just like 22's. Yeah,
yes,
totally.
And that's another thing that was reflected in the movie. Like, everything that we thought, and, like, there's just so many lessons in, I don't know, like, things to take back from it that we're super excited to make this video for you guys.
Oh, yeah.
Or just for us, too. Like, it's like a little it's documenting, like, the different forms of spirituality in, like, or tapping into the astral realm, and I don't even know. It's just, it's beautiful.
Yes, it's awesome. I can't wait to hopefully talk to someone who's watched the movie and does not have the same perspective as us, because I have seen, like, people, like, crying on TikTok after they've watched it because it's left them kind of, like, at a loss. And I mean, I'm so happy that I'm not in that position in my spiritual journey anymore, where I can see that I'm okay with just existing. That sounds actually pretty awesome, and just experiencing is enough for me now.
Exactly. And that's what makes life more meaningful. It's not scary. It's the ego death that's scary.
We
and
do live in a hard time right now, I would say, to fully be free, but
let's not forget, though, too, there's people that have not really experienced much of any sort of ego death as we did before. Like, the pain, like, it's still painful, and, like, there's shadows coming out all the time, but something like that, when you're already, like, I don't know, I actually, now that we're discussing it, I can see how it could
be not detrimental,
but like, it's just a lot, but it's going to be okay. It will, like, once you come full circle, it's beautiful. Like, life is so much better when you're like, oh, the purpose is to enjoy every moment. Well, it's gonna be my duty to enjoy every moment, and, like, I've been trying to do that. Like, it's so weird because there's been so many layers to, like, our spiritual awakenings, like, separately and together and as a collective, too. But it's just so strange, like, the stripping and, like, how there's been so much pain, but every time you come out of it, you're like, oh, my goodness, I feel so much more prepared, like, learning all my shadows and, like, coming down to, like, my childhood trauma and, like...
There's times that I have felt since... December 21st, and even just going into 2021, like, the highest and, like, the most actualized and, like, the strongest version of myself, and literally 2 seconds later I'm hit with shadow work, and I feel the absolute depths of despair, and it just is happening so rapidly right now. And I know it's for the reason of we are just accelerating, and we're on this crazy path, and there's a lot of stuff going. We're on the best path right now, is what I have gathered, basically, to actualizing humanity. Which is,
you gotta purge the old. Like, we have to let go of these things if we want what we're trying to manifest. It's essential, and that's the way that I look at it, too. Like, every time that... It's just, like, from being so reactive, and, like, when I was living in my, like, 3D, like, self or whatever, I don't know how to describe it. Like, back before my spiritual awakening, like... Even through the process of it, like, emotional regulation and stuff like that has always been a struggle. Like, and I thought I couldn't help it, and I couldn't get behind the reason why I was so reactive, but it was just built up shit that I needed to unpack, like, learning why I act like that, and, like, what happens when you don't deal with certain things, and creating boundaries, creating, you know what I mean? It's just like
being selfish in a way that we are not taught to be, basically, because I feel like we're taught to just give so much of ourselves away all the time, and it's not right. Like, boundaries are very important. Bosses, all sorts of people in the real world try to push those all the time. You know what I mean? And it's okay coming from a place of authority in our culture, which it's not okay to give in to the pressures of the government if there's stuff that you don't want to do. It's not okay to give in to pressures of a religious leader if it's not something to do. It's not okay to do that with a teacher, doctor, anyone, really.
I know, exactly, and I feel really bad. Over Christmas, I discussed, like, just talking to my family. I had a lot of meaningful discussions, because I've been trying to talk about things more openly and make people think, and, like, I don't know, it's something that it's a challenge for me, because I don't feel like any of them resonate with any of this stuff overall.
And
but
it's leaving you vulnerable, I think, and leaving them to interpreting it however they want, because you know that no matter what you do, your point is going to just be received from their perspective.
But it was worth a shot, and I think it was really good.
Well, all you can do is bait people until they come to you. You know what I mean? Like, you're never going to win someone over by shoving the truth down their throats, obviously.
Yeah, because it's energy. It's the push-pull. Like, you can't be...
That's why, like... Oh, sorry, I'm interrupting that. But that's why, like, the term Lightworker is so nice, because that's essentially what you are, just a beam of light. And if they want to be attracted to the light, that's great. And if they want to say it's hurting their eyes, you know what? That's your...
Yeah, you're shedding, and I don't mean this in like a cruel way, but like I don't have to partake in things that I don't want to, and I know that now. And like that is so like oh my goodness, I feel like a whole other person when I started actually putting myself first and stopped saying that I'm doing it, and I actually felt the effects of saying no and being okay with that. It oh my gosh, like it's revolutionary. Like when you start actually like loving yourself and putting yourself first. It is, and everyone should do it, because when your cup's full, you will give to people because your cup will be overflowing. You can't even help it. Like when I'm feeling good, I'm like giving compliments to strangers, and I'm like, you know what I mean? It's like I'm so high vibe that I can't help but want to make other people feel good and go the extra mile because my energy's up.
Yeah, for sure.
And that rule applies to everybody, and that's the problem. Is like we give and we give and we give and we give, and then resentment builds, and you end up either like I don't know.
Well, resentment builds up because you're not doing your self-care, and I think I said that in air quotes because we think of self-care as like this like pampering yourself and whatever, but a lot of times self-care is really fucking ugly and dirty. It's journaling, it's crying in your bed alone. It's, you know what I mean? It's
being with yourself,
no things. Yeah, exactly.
And taking care of your mental health, and whatever
that, like an asshole to people who would ordinarily, you know what I mean, give themselves until they were depleted. Like it's hard for someone who
doesn't understand that, because they're bitter, because the rules of society are like we're led to believe like a big thing is like something that it's like check up on your friends. Like I do believe that, but I believe that it's up to you to speak up when something's wrong. Like we all have to start doing that. We can't go fishing into each other's, like it's not healthy to do that. Like
we are already all the same being if you believe that. So collectively, if we work on ourselves, we will all ascend together.
Yeah.
And I think that people who understand that concept understand what I said, and I wish I could break it down a little bit more, but this is why I believe we have simultaneous downloads. People say things at the same time. You know, we joke about jinx, ha ha ha.
Well, you're on the same frequency too.
Exactly. And when you are a good friend with someone, you not only can read their 3D expressions and emotion, you also feel their vibrations, and you can start to predict what they would do, because they're a reflection of you now, and you guys are on the same wavelength, whatever, like, that's the easiest way to put it. But yeah, that's why it's so important to be selfish, because if you're not selfish, you can't give to anyone else.
Yes, and I don't, the thing that I was trying to get at is I don't like the guilt that surrounds being selfish. Like it's not, it's your mental health is your responsibility, and if you, like, you need to put that first.
Yes.
You always need to put it first. And jobs are, the reason why you don't put mental health first is because jobs wouldn't exist. Those type of jobs wouldn't exist. How your mental health cannot thrive unless you're doing the extra work, and it's a lot, and then you have no extra time. You know what I mean? Your time is all taken up. Like, self-care should be something that comes naturally to you, like in because it's cycles, right? Like you're feeling good, you're out there fucking getting shit done, and then you kind of have to wind back and reflect, and
and sometimes you are going to step on people's toes and hurt people's feelings because you don't want to do certain things. That is like okay, and it needs to be more normalized. That's why I think calling it self-care is important, because that stigma has to be taken off of the word. Like, it's not selfish to want to self-preserve. That is survival in a way. That is, how else would we thrive as a consciousness if we were continuously just slaves to capitalism? That's why people that burn out. That's a perfect physical 3D example of why you have to be selfish sometimes, because you will burn out
and you won't be yourself. Like, you're just a shell of a human, and you're fucking miserable. Like, I've noticed too, like, I can feel my vibration rise and like go down because of how much I feel like how present I feel and how like giving and considerate and generous, like all of that will go away. And like, or like I'll be more judgmental and more like critical. Like that's how I can tell what vibration I'm in.
Yeah.
Is because of, and I think a lot of people are stuck in this low vibration altogether, and it's just...
I know. As a society, as a culture, I think that we unfortunately have been taught to keep ourselves asleep and be mad about it. But in the age of Aquarius, we are taking our power back, baby. We're going to do whatever the fuck we want. And it's going to be awesome. It's going to be a crazy ass year. I just feel it in my bones.
Yeah, so much has already happened.
You guys are here for it. Yeah. Oh my God. So much has already happened. I don't even want to touch on.
It's just the tip of the iceberg, and I'm nothing but excited, and I can feel everything so much more powerful and intense, and things are really starting to take action, and I can just feel it in my bones.
Yeah, for sure. So start chasing after the fucking 5D and quit living in the 3D. Come ascend with us, because I assure you, as hard and as crazy and as scary as it is, it's also so worth it. So worth it.
Yes. All right. Yeah. I guess we're going to call it a wraps, guys. Well, nice chat.
Yes, I think that was really good. Definitely. If you haven't watched the movie Soul and you're still listening to this...
Sorry.
Yeah, I know, right? And go watch it, please, because it's well worth it. And check us out also on YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, The Eureka Effect, or The Eureka Effect Podcast, depending.
Yeah.
We also have Twitter. Never use it. Follow us there, too, anyway.
Yeah, just in case.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Toodles.